Hey everybody, it's Loretta Louvier, artist, life coach, art life coach. And I'm here on episode 51. 51. That means next week is a year of these episodes, which is really mind-blowing to me. But anyway, hi Michelle. That's my second introduction. I'm Loretta. Hi Michelle. Hi, Ardeen. I see you. So tonight, I actually, you know, again, think about these things on my way home from work, and I had some ideas of what I wanted to talk about tonight, but I had to stop at Target. And so the title of tonight, the question is, are you in a box? And the answer is going to be how I jumped out of a box. So at any rate, I was at Target and there was a young man, early 20s, as my cashier. And, I don't have a locked in thing about my age, so I'm not thinking, that this is a 20-year-old who thinks I'm an old bag, I'm just like, oh, here's a person, right? So at any rate, he was very weird to me, and I thought, he's strange to me, he's acting weird to me because I'm an older person. I mean, maybe that's not the reason, but that's what went on in my head. And so I came home and, I told you I have this little quiet time where I get calm and try to think about what I'm going to talk about. And, I was thinking, this guy kind of put me in a box. That's what I'm feeling. I feel like, he framed me as some old lady, right? But who knows what he really thought. This is all going on in my head. So that with this quiet time that I got into, during the quiet time, I started thinking about Jack in the Box, and I'm like, that's really funny. Where is that coming from? And I happened to listen to an interview today by Van Morrison. Somebody was interviewing Van Morrison, and he was talking about creativity, and he's like, where do your songs come from? This guy asked him, and he's like, they come from my mind, my creativity. And he says sometimes like a word will just pop into my head, and I go with that word and I start writing something about that, and then the song starts to flow. So I remembered that because I was like, Jack in the Box, huh? And I was thinking about a couple of things. One, crazy story about my mom, who, when she was 90, I took her to Hawaii and to my niece's wedding, and we were at the pre-wedding party, and my niece was a model for a while, so they had her photographer, this fancy photographer, who was invited to the wedding, and he was getting my mother a drink. And my mother said, I can't remember what she said, but she said some little racy thing. And I'm like, Mom, you're 90. How could you say that? And she says in her little funny New York accent, she's like, I just like to blow people's minds, Loretta. I'm like, well, you blew my mind, Mom. Anyway, so that made me think of popping out of a box, being a Jack in the Box. So I was thinking about how there's one part of coming out of being in a box, and the box that I'm talking about is the one that I was in, was depression. That's where I went from thinking about being in a box. And when did I have a Jack in the Box experience? Out of what, right? Out of what box? So the box that I thought of was this time where I was extremely extremely depressed. And I was separated from my ex-husband. My two kids were um, young. They were little kids, and it was like 2 days before Christmas, and I had no money. I was so depressed. I was like, I want to go out and get a Christmas tree, but I can't even do that. And I hardly had any money, and it was just a really, really dark, dark time. And I think this was a Christmas where we got like a surprise package from an anonymous person in this church, like a couple of towns away. And I kind of figured out who the person was that nominated me and my kids for this Christmas box, right? And because it was the only person I knew in that church. And she happened to be a lady that was involved in the HEAP program, where I would go to keep my utilities on. And she kind of liked me, I guess, for some reason. And so it was like that kind of a Christmas. It makes me cry when I think about it. But anyway, so I was so down, and I'm like, I can't have a Christmas like this for my kids. And I did get them a couple of little things. And one of the things I got from my older son was a room freshener, those things that car freshener you hang on your car with Mr. T from the A-Team on it. And I don't think my son has ever forgiven me. I'm like, I just want to get you a little something to open up. But anyway, we got a couple of more presents. Anyway, so 2 days before Christmas, and I'm like so down. So this story has a few little twists, which you can't tell, right? Already we're twisting, but it has a couple of twists. And one of them is that before, it was probably that spring of that year, I was working with a theater company, and the play, I was the props person, and the play that they did was about these three Chinese women that were really, really strong, and they lived by themselves on a farm, but they were so strong. They would carry their cow around with them on their shoulders, and it was a regular cow. So the prop I had to make was like a 3/4 life-size cow. So after the show was over, I got the cow back. So I had this 3/4 life-size cow in my studio. And I said to my kids, let's decorate the cow. And it turned into being probably one of our best Christmases. This was before I started going back to church. But it was so, so nice. It was such a good Christmas, because we took out all of our Christmas decorations. We hung the cow up, and it was a 3/4 of the size of a real cow. So it's hanging up in between my dining room and my living room, and we pinned all the Christmas lights that blinked. And it was I don't know what kind of cow it was. It was a black and white cow, mostly white with black spots on it. And we put the lights, it was just funny. All the legs we wrapped with lights, and we pinned on, because it was muslin, and it was stuffed with those peanuts. So it was really light. It wasn't heavy at all, which is what we needed for the play, so those people could carry this giant cow. But anyway, so we pinned all the lights to the cow, and we had the absolute best Christmas together. And then from that point on, we had a Christmas cow every year, and it got to be where we would have our friends over, and we would have the Christmas cow party. So at any rate, it was just such a fun thing. And when you turned all the lights off, and I put on some reggae music, the lights on the tree blinked to the reggae beat. It was really funny. So that was in that year, that was the way that I jumped out of a deep, dark depression. I mean, one of the darkest times of my life, by using art, by allowing an idea to pop into my head and go with it, and to make my kids, they were so happy about having this cow decorated. And my older son, my kids are 7 years apart, so my older son was old enough to have this conversation with me, which was simply that we wondered what the teacher of my younger son would say when he went into school and said, "We decorated our cow for Christmas." And so, and anyway, that was me getting out of a depression. And I don't know, I was thinking, like I said, about my mom, and not that she wasn't really depressed, but she just liked to get out of boxes that people put her in by blowing their mind and saying something. It wasn't really rowdy. Tony, my husband, always goes, rowdy. I don't think I know what that word means, because I use it in a funny way, and he's like, what do you mean? But anyway, so that is my message for tonight. Being a jack in the box in your own life, and thinking of ways that you can pop out of the box. Dun, 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 boom. And it worked. It worked for a long time. I was really happy with it. So anyway, thank you for those likes, you guys. So anyway, that should have been told like last week or two ago at Christmas time, but it just popped into my head tonight. So at any rate, that's my story for tonight, and I'm just so glad to see you guys here. And if you want to pop some messages in about times that you were able to jump out of a box, and it doesn't have to be depression, it doesn't have to be anything, really gigantic, or it could be the biggest thing in the whole world, because sometimes jumping out of a box can change your whole life, So at any rate, that's it for tonight. Thank you guys for showing up so much, and I will see you on episode 52 next week. I'm going to really come up with something wonderful for that. But at any rate, thank you all for being here, and I love you guys, and I will see you next week. I may be popping up tomorrow at 6. I'm not positive, but on stuff about my idea about integrity for this year. So I might see you tomorrow at 6. And everyone get through this storm that's in upstate New York safely, and see you next time. Okay, thanks. Bye. Mwah.